Hi there. Welcome to Improv Noob, the podcast where we ask improvisers how they learned to improvise. I'm your host, Jason Frankovitz, and with me is a very special guest, good friend of mine, someone who I unfortunately haven't hung out with in a very long time, Brian O'Connell. Thanks for joining today, Brian.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Jason. How are you?
Good. I'm good. It's great to see you. We've been chatting a little bit before we got rolling, and it's been
Yes.
great to
You were
catch up.
complimenting me on
Yes,
my Leif
the
Garrett look.
costume. Um, and you look good. You
Thank
look
you.
like you're doing okay in the circumstances that we're in.
I'm trying, like I was saying, like Leif Garrett. That's a reference the kids will get.
Leif Garrett. Wow.
Yeah, but I'm also trying to
Is
be
Sean
better about
Cassidy far behind?
he cannot be. Uh I'm trying to be better about, my my skincare regimen. So I
Uh-huh.
got
Uh-huh.
got some lotion and stuff. So I'm just trying to like have it not just show on my face
Right.
how
Right.
hard
What's
everything
happening
is.
to life and to each of us nowadays? Well, you've sent me a little blurb, which I'm going to read and just tell people who don't know about you about you.
Oh.
Brian James O'Connell, also known as BOC. He's a writer. He's a director. He is a weaver of dreams, as they say. His probably best well known in the improv community for his troupe Dr. God. Um, and right now, you guys have a show on Sci-Fi Saturday late night, the TZGZ lineup that's at midnight on
Mhm.
Sci-Fi called Hell Den. And as in preparation for this interview, because I am a Terry Gross like figure. I watched the Maria Bamford episode, uh,
Yeah.
and by the time it was over, I was laughing out loud. I was laughing loudly. And the thing that so for those who don't know, Helden is this it's this show that uses it's basically repurposing old footage that you don't have to pay copyright on.
That is exactly correct. We repurpose public domain cartoons and live action footage, and rewrite them, recut them, reskew them into social commentary, sketch comedy bits,
Mm-hmm.
kibbles and bits. And yes, and we have a guest star every episode. And so episode 1 of season 2 that just premiered on November 7th, we had Maria Bamford was our guest. And boy, when when you got a rocket in your pocket like Maria Bamford,
Yeah,
when you got it's pretty hard to go wrong when you have
that's
Maria Bamford.
that's as I used to work in booking when, but I
Hmm.
mentioned I used to work at this network called Tech TV, and I started out interning in the booking department. And when we got someone like that for a show that we didn't think could land them, we would say, she's a good get. Maria Bamford is a good get.
Hmm.
So I think you used her well. It was
Thank you.
funny. I mean, I've got some back episodes now to catch up on, because now I know what I'm in for. But you've got a show on TV, and that's fucking dope. So congrats.
Thank you. It's been a long process. It is very fortunate that we and Dr. God, because we are the co-creators and executive producers and writers and producers. Neil is the main producer and our showrunner,
Mhm.
but we write it. We do most of the voices and all that. And just having a lot of Dr. God family people work on it as well, like Rob O'Connor and Jeff McMahon are our editors. They've been with us for a long time. Uh, Tim Jennings, Beth Russell, Marshall Givens,
Mhm.
the old Dr. God extended family really
Right.
did a lot of stuff for us. Dwayne Colbert, like Meg Favreau, like all of our favorites, all of our Kristen Sanchez, all of our boys and girls.
Mhm.
So it's helpful to have that sort of workflow already in place when you have to do the entire thing remotely.
Yeah.
Uh, but also being able to go and go to people like Maria Bamford, and then them going, Oh, I don't. Me doing my Maria Bamford impression. I don't know if I've heard of them. Are they? Are they any good? And then they can do a little research and they can see like, oh, they did the movie. We are lucky enough that we've been around for long enough now and have prided ourselves on not being assholes,
Mhm.
so that eventually you're going to get to somebody that that has also worked with us. And actors talk. I know that as a film director, number one thing actors do is talk. So when they're up for a movie and you're the director and they go to your IMDb and see that you've worked with someone that they're friends with, they will call that person and say like, I'm up for this role in this movie. Is this guy an asshole?
Yeah. Is
So
this going
we're
to be enjoyable or not?
Yeah, the money's fine, but like, what am I in for? And so it's nice to be able to go and sort of be legitimized in such a way, and it begets others because Maria is a delight and a delight to work with. I've booked her through Jason Van Glass. I've booked our friend Jason Van Glass from the Pack Theater. I've booked her a couple of times at the Pack, and she has been nothing but just like a sweetheart of a human being,
Yeah.
almost always, even when like being like probably the most famous person in the room, and
Mhm.
but like no affectation for it, whatever. Are these snacks for everybody? I don't want to take them if there's someone else's. uh and so great. And so that just, the next thing, it's nice. I don't think my mom really gets it, but she does. But it is kind of nice to be able to go to people and be like, yeah, Maria Bamford's in the first episode. Hey, I like Maria Bamford.
Yeah.
She's great. She's
Yeah.
in your show. I guess you don't suck because she
I
doesn't suck. I'm
I
like,
might
yeah,
watch. Yeah.
yeah, buddy. Please, please watch Maria Bamford and maybe us.
Yeah. It's held
Yeah.
in. It's on Sci-Fi at midnight. It's once a week.
Once a week, yeah. It's part of their late night comedy block of programming, TZGZ, because it's one more from then Sci-Fi, SYFY,
Oh, look at
TZGZ.
that. Look at
It's
that.
very nice. Yeah, we so it's us and the High Wizard is their sort of like what do you call it, their mascot that you can kind of find. He's great, cartoon mascot. But there's a lot of different little uh
Yeah, the
quarter
show is
hour
like the show
comedies
is
and
like
stuff.
10, 15 minutes long. It's not like a half hour,
No, we are, yeah, we're a
2 hour
quarter,
show.
yeah, we're a quarter hour programming, which allows them to put and our shows are like anywhere from like 11 to 12 to 13 and a half minutes. So so we can have a
You got
word from our
spaces for
sponsors.
spots. You got spaces for ads.
But there's also some so there's us and there's a couple other quarter hour new original programming that's really great, and then like Futurama reruns, because who doesn't love those? I have watched Futurama all the way through, what, 4 times at this point. Obviously I skip that episode because I don't need to hurt my heart
Okay.
during this. You know the episode.
I don't.
It's the one with the dog.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
already don't want to watch it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows
Okay.
what I'm
Now
talking
I
about.
know. I know, but I don't know,
Yeah,
but I know I don't want to know.
you
So
don't want to know. Heartbreaking, heartbreaking.
Um, I
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you the same question that I ask all my guests.
Excellent.
This is a podcast where I'm really interested in how people learn to become good improvisers. And you've been performing, and you've been teaching, and you've been arguably the loudest and most vocal advocate for improvisation, not just as entertainment, as a type of theatrical performance, but also as like a philosophy of life, and as an approach to solving problems, and as a way of generating community, and as a way of developing qualities that we want to grow in ourselves. And so I think you are a particularly good person to ask this question
Thank
of,
you.
or to, or at, pick your preposition.
Sure.
So when you first started learning improv, there was some moment in a class or some moment in a show where you saw someone make a move or do something in a scene where suddenly it clicked for you and you realized, oh, that's why they do that. Or I see now why this thing that had been mysterious makes perfect sense now that I've seen them do whatever it is. So can you think back to one of those first lessons where you learned something about improv and you instantly knew that you were going to be a better improviser from learning this thing when you started? What do you think that would be for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a very specific question. I like that because I've told the story a million times of like the first long form improv show I saw was at Tiger Pants, January 19th, 2003. I saw it at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night at iOS. They just happened to have the greatest show they ever had. And I was like, I want to do this. I have to learn.
Mhm.
Uh, but the question that you asked is a great question. And I think the first time for me, which is great because I'm putting the old man over, because it's true. My very first level 5 class with Miles Stroff at IO West
Mhm.
in the upstairs black box, aka the loft.
The
For
loft.
those of you,
I pulled lights
depending on what
for over a year in the loft.
yeah, during depending on what era you are of iOS, that's how you remember it. My That's not the first time I met Miles. The first time I met Miles was previously the previous Thursday. We were in the cage match. I was with a group of level 4 students, a bunch of us that ended up going on to be on Bunny Squad, the Happy Time Rainbow Bunny Squad, my first team with Miles. And back then, if you won 10 cage matches in a row, you got retired. And at that point, only like 4 teams had ever been retired. Like Girl Team Balls, which was like Angela Kinsey and Lindsay Stoddard and Tammy Sick, like just
Right.
heavy hitters.
Titans.
Um, yeah, and we were very excitable, and I was a very mercurial improviser to say the least. I
Okay.
go back and watch some of those old shows that I have unlucky to have footage of, and it's like, oh man, my very first scene with Rachel Grissom, and I'm dropping the C word for comedic effect. Wow, yikes.
Okay.
I mean, I got the laughs, and
Choice.
we
Good
packed.
choice.
Yeah, I was very boisterous. I almost
Mm,
said obnoxious, but I was that too.
mm.
And a bunch, Kate Purdy, who's a friend of mine now and has been for quite some time, was a performer, and she and Miles, I think, and a couple others independently found out of like, wait a minute, a bunch of level 4 students are gonna win 10 cage matches and be retired in this echelon of like, oh no, just because they brought a lot of people, absolutely not. And
Oh.
so Kate put together a murderer's row, like a huge, like I cannot even remember all the
Like
names of the
Monsters
like,
of Rock-esque lineup.
absolutely, like pick your favorite front man, that's who was singing. Picking your favorite guitar player, that's who was playing the guitar.
Right.
um and all the tickets sold out at 7 o'clock that night because everyone was like, this is going to be amazing. So none of our friends who usually voted for us every week got in. And
Oh.
we got murdered. We went on second. We had to sit in the green room and listen to them like kill. I didn't know at the time because I wasn't watching, but I found out afterwards from other people that were watching over the course of several weeks, that like Miles, as he is so wont to do, was like directing from stage, but you couldn't see that he was basically taking care of the piece.
Okay.
Everybody there was very, very funny, but they weren't like, they were all stars. They didn't really know each other. So Miles was just doing all the work to make it look like,
He's
so when
he's
they all
he's got
landed
his
up,
eye on the big picture of the show.
yeah. So when the clock went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they landed first scene, last scene on the perfect closeout line, wrapped the whole fucking narrative up. And so when the light went off, everyone went, "Rah!" And then we went out. We had a fun show, whatever.
Mm.
Um, and then we lost very badly. And then we went into our last level 4 class with Bob Dassey. And at the beginning of class, and we had made a deal with each other that we were going to go through classes together because we all found each other in level 2, and we were like, I love you, you love me, I love you too. So we're all like, we're signing up for Wednesday for level 3. Everyone sign up for Wednesday. Like we
Right.
made sure we were in the same
Yep.
class together. So Scott Rose came barreling in 10 minutes before class. He was like, you know who our level 5 teacher is going to be? That fucking old asshole from the cage match. And we were like, no, screw that guy. And so we all went into that class with like the biggest chips on our shoulders. And
Mhm.
Miles just sat down as he wanted to. All right. We're just going to talk about what the purpose of the work that we're about to do. And I can't remember exactly. It's something along those lines. He
Mhm.
would probably say, I never said anything as dumb as that. That's stupid. I'm gay. Uh, he would, yeah, I don't know. I just remember after the first 5 to 10 minutes of him just talking about what we were going to do, I remember having the feeling, all that anger and resentment just went away. I went, no, whatever you're buying, whatever you're selling, I'm buying. That's
Mhm.
it. I'm in. That is exactly what I want to be doing, because I fell in love with improv from the first long form improv from the first moment I saw it. Wanted to get better. I wanted to do it. I obsessively thought about it. I knew it was going to be a huge part of my life for the rest of my life. It saved my life. It gave me my purpose. It gave me my brothers and Dr. God. It gave me my wonderful girlfriend. Uh, it gave my friends. It gave me you, right? Uh, and then I was like, oh, and there is another layer to this. There is a deeper well. It felt like I think the way that people when they go into academia, you know what I mean? Like I love this process so much. I love the search for knowledge and truth in this specific subject or area of expertise or corner of human knowledge, that I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to this, that I'm going to become a part of academia. I am going to then pass this on to others. And I remember having that feeling sitting there and going like, yeah, whatever you're selling, you're buying, which is funny because then several years later, Miles told me the story of Dell and the first class he ever had with Dell, which was in the basement of the Italian restaurant in Chicago, or wherever IO was at that time. He goes, and back then, like, the liquor closet and like the keg room was down there. So the waitresses and waiters and servers and busboys all had to come downstairs and kind of walk through the class, like, oh, I'm sorry, just to like get whatever, like extra towels or napkins or straws.
Right.
And Miles said, like, the very first class back then, you took 3 classes and Dell taught class 3. And so there was only 3 levels and you kind of got Dell then. And he was like, okay. And so we're all kind of just sitting there, kind of like, oh, this is the guy that we've all heard about, and he's a guru and all that. And he got up on stage and he was about to talk. And at that moment, Miles, as he describes her, a scaldingly hot waitress, just like just classically beautiful
Mhm.
woman, just walked all the way down the stairs to come down and Dale didn't say anything. He just watched. I mean, and keep in mind, he was a junkie Wiccan who hated women and people of color. Let's just say what it is, right? He was a
He
very
was a
troubled,
flawed person. Yes.
complicated human being, is the charitable way that we are going to put it. It is what it is. All the way down, watched her go all the way to there, get the stuff, watched her all the way back, go all the way back up the stairs again. And shit you not, first line that he says to the class, he just looks at the class and goes, well, she was pretty enough to kill. Yeah. And Miles just went, what? He was like, he was like, in that moment, I was like, I'm in. That is the darkest, that is the darkest shit. We are a bunch of strangers. And you said something that a psychopath says,
Yes.
and you are giddy with the reaction you get. He was like, I want to learn how to do that. I was like, that's how I felt about you. That's how I felt when you were talking. I was like, I'm in.
So
Whatever you were selling, I'm in.
that's
She
interesting.
looks pretty enough to kill. And I was like, that's the dark joy I've signed up for,
We
injected into my
actually
veins.
we just rewatched Zodiac last week. So
Yeah.
you know,
It's a movie that it wasn't my favorite of Fincher. I'm a huge Fincher guy,
I'm a
obviously.
big Fincher guy. Yeah.
But like it wasn't my favorite to begin with, but on repeat viewings, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like it's gotten better, kind of in the same way that as I've aged, my parents got smarter. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but the thing that those two seem to have in common, what you heard from Miles and what Miles heard from Dell, um, is just how potent inspiration is,
Hmm.
and what kind of a North Star it makes for you when you are learning about performing and when you're developing the skills to be a performer. Um,
Yeah.
was there something that you learned in that class with Miles, or something else near the start of your career that really inspired you, that provided like some concrete inspiration for your desire to make improv such a big part of who you are?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's gonna make perfect sense to you as soon as I say it.
Okay.
But for everybody else, Back then, level 5, Miles did what he wanted. He didn't teach off curriculum. He taught what he wanted. And back then, level 5 was an 8-week course in the deconstruction.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's when we started doing that and working on that. I was like, when he taught us that, I went, yeah, found my brand. Don't
Mhm,
show me anything else. Don't care.
mhm,
Can't care. This is what I want. And I was again very lucky and fortunate to be in that group, and so many of us were like, yes. And so that's one of my favorites. 3 separate groups went to Miles individually and says, we want to be a deconstruction team. Will you coach us? And at that point, Miles had retired from coaching because he was like, no, no, teams flake out. They break up after like 3 6 weeks, 6 months if you're late, if you're lucky. 6 months is just when the work starts getting interesting, and I'm
mhm.
not interested in anything less than that. No. And we just kept bugging him and bugging him, and eventually he said, all right, here are the 10 of you that I think are worthy of my teaching. That cut about 2/3 because it
Oh,
was 3
wow.
separate groups. And he
Okay.
said, here, of all you people that are coming to me right now, here's the 10.
That's pretty
And then we had,
savage. Pretty savage.
it's very savage. But I went to a film school I went to a conservatory that was very savage. So to me, like, even if he had cut me, I wouldn't have felt bad because we had something at School of the Arts called the sophomore slaughter, where they just cut 40% of your class like that.
Oh.
uh yeah, it's rough. So I was just like, okay, yeah, next level, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm for it. And then he came and said, all right, here are here are my demands. You have to rehearse twice a week for
Uh-huh.
2 hours a week. You pay me $50 a pop cash because that was the going rate of coaching at that time. You book the room and pay for the room. I don't want to do nothing except teach. And you have to hang out once a week as a
As
group and
friends.
as friends, do something, go to a movie, have a potluck. He was like, I don't care, but it has to be something that you do together outside of those 2 rehearsals a week. So it's a 3-day a week commitment.
Mhm.
I need a 2-year commitment. I decide when you go on stage. And we all met at my house at 919 Oban Drive in Mount Washington, and we all sit around and we said, yes, we all going to agree to these terms? Are we going to do it? Yeah. And the only real thing that we had to talk him into was Bellavia, because Mike Bellavia took that level 5 off because it was the same night as his level 5B of Second City, and those guys had already made a commitment to each other that they were going to complete classes with each other to try and be a sketch team. So we went to Miles and we begged him. We said, look, you're going to have him in your level 5 next term at the same time that he's rehearsing with us doing the decon. After that class is over, after that 8 weeks, if you hate him, you can kick him off the team. That's fine. But please, we're begging you, sight unseen, will you trust us that Bellavia is good enough and he's down to do this? And he goes, all right, okay. And then that's how Bellavia got the nickname Tony, because for the first 3 weeks, Miles just couldn't. He was like, you don't look like a Mike. You look like a Tony.
You're Tony.
You're a Tony. Yeah. So and that's it. And that was a Happy Time Rainbow Bunny Squad. So yeah, finding the deconstruction and the way that Miles teaches the deconstruction, and now the way that I teach the deconstruction, and then my own things that I've added to it and sort of explored and expanded it. Yeah, that was day one. I was like, shut up, don't tell me anything else. This is my
So,
jam.
so for those who don't know, can you give a brief explanation of what the deconstruction is as a form and
Mhm.
why all of improv can be found in the deconstruction?
Yeah, yes. The deconstruction, I believe, as you know, that our job as improvisers is to replicate recognizable human behavior and replicate it on the stage in such a way that the audience recognizes their own humanity and reveals that revelation through the form of laughter, so we can have a longer discussion and deeper transaction of ideas on how to heal the world.
Yes.
TLDR version, uh, be interesting. You are interesting, so be you. The deconstruction and its quote unquote training wheels version of that is you start off with a realistic scene, grounded, truthful, providing specifics and details, preferably up to including using your own real names and experiences for 7 to 8 minutes. That is followed by 2 thematic scenes, which are character-driven scenes, peas in the pod, mirrors and heightening, that are sort of big splashes of color. And so if the opening scene is you trying to draw a photorealistic painting of a still life bowl of fruit,
Mhm.
the thematic scenes is orange circle, yellow, so that those are 2 to 2.5 minutes apiece. Then the opening scene, those same characters come back and they are infused and infected with how the group saw their characters. You'd like me to be more orange. You'd like me to be more yellow. I sort of refer to it as, if the opening scene is vodka, the one of the thematic scenes was blueberry, and the other thematic scene was chili pepper. Then you come back and you have blueberry vodka and chili pepper vodka. It's still clear. It's infused that
But it's
flavor,
been
but it
flavored.
doesn't flavor, but it doesn't become blue liquor. It doesn't become blueberries in a bottle. It's just infused with that flavor, right? Like you would with an olive oil, right? Garlic infused olive oil is still olive oil, right? And so that's there for another 2 to 2.5 minutes to explore that behavior, explore that relationship. That's followed by 5 commentary scenes, which are logical absurd scenes, which is what I like to call straight absurd scenes now, because language matters and language changes. I don't want anyone to feel distanced or feel like something is not for them because they are not a cishet straight white male. Yes. So logical absurd. I even got the old man's permission to change it to logical absurd. So we're good.
It's legit now.
It's legit now. Those are pure game. Hit, back off. Hit, back off. Comedy threes. We play the game and sort of commenting on the behavior that we saw of those 2 people in the opening scene. And then we have an opening scene that's there for about 30 to 45 seconds. Each one of those 5 commentary scenes is 90 seconds apiece. You have 30 to 45 seconds to just bring those people back, so you can remind the audience, don't forget about these 2. Don't forget about this husband and wife. A lot of stuff going on here. They are important. This is what we're deconstructing. And then to kick off the run, which is all your alternate reality scenes. If this is true, what else is true? Mapping, consistency. And that all 4 scenes of the deconstruction then are all 4 scenes of the position play types, which is what another thing that Miles created and that I definitely believe in when it comes to not only improv, but comedy in general approach. And that is just anything and everything goes in the run. Anything you've heard, just word vomit. You go faster and faster until you can't go fast no more. At the end of the run should look like those old cartoons where it's just a dust
Cloud of smoke. Yeah.
Cloud of smoke, and then just fist coming out, and then boom, you land on the 4th and final opening scene with those 2 realistic characters. More often than not, but not required, if you go back in time to the before the problem happened, back in time to before the issue happens, it will always work. I have taught, performed, coached, and watched the deconstruction. I mean, thousands of deconstructions for the classes I've taught, the teams I've coached, the camps that I've taught at for Camp Improv Utopia, and I'm easily into my 2000s of decons. When someone goes back in time for that final 4th and final realistic opening scene, I've never seen it not work. It just works, and it's what I love about the decon. The decon, I'm always on people like, if you can't describe your improv show without using the word improv, you need to go back to the drawing board. And that's not because I hate improv or I'm embarrassed of improv or I'm ashamed of the word improv, which some people have had the fucking gall to say to me, ashamed of improv. No. I'm saying that you haven't put in the work.
Yeah.
If you can't describe your improv show without using the word improv, and you go back to the drawing board, and the deconstruction is a 1-act comedic play about the darkness of the dark joy of the human condition. That sounds something that's interesting. That sounds like something that people want to see. That sounds like theater. That sounds like something that's being done on purpose. And if you do the decon, if you just follow it, when I used to feel bad about my own work, I would go and watch Miles' level 5 kids, because you would take 2 weeks of decon and you'd start having level 5 shows because, Sharna's got to make that money, right? Beg your friends to come in and spend money at the bar. And they would just do it. They would do opening scene, 2 thematics, opening scene, 5 commentaries, opening scene, the run, opening scene, go back in time. And every time the lights pulled out, I just went, God damn, it just works.
Yeah.
It just works. And then coming from a background of filmmaking, especially having a BFA in film editing, the idea of the process being the product and tearing apart and putting back together, and juxtaposition and composition, but also of songwriting, of being in bands and being in the studio and producing things, and then also playing organized sports, being in soccer and doing your corvairs and working on your touch, working on set pieces, what to do, how we're going to play corner kicks, how we're going to play penalty kicks, how we like all that kind of stuff, so that you can play the chess in the moment that is a live soccer game, or football as it's called in the rest of the world. So all that stuff for me clicked, and it made, probably the most important thing about decon and position play is it made improv success replicable. It took all of the fantasy mysticism. I am not a fan. I'm a fan of the people who say this stuff because they are good improvisers and I respect them and enjoy them as human beings. I am not a fan of the teaching style that says that improv is some sort of mystical magic weave that we wizards pull from and we're just lucky to whatever we have in the moment. No, that is not how anything works. That's not how driving works. That's not how ballet works. That is not how I ran pool halls for years and years. I grew up in pool halls in North Carolina. That's not how that's not how the work of billiards works at all. To say that improv, once I found out that similar to sketch or to edit or film editing or songcraft, once I found the deconstruction and position play, and it made improv scene work on stage success replicable. It made it I'm not saying that all shows are going to be great or all scenes are going to be great,
Right.
but the potentiality of potential success goes up by having this training versus not having this training, regardless if my partner has even thought the words position play or deconstruction before. It takes a while. And once that opened up, fuck it. It was the whole world was off. So that's why people are like, do you get nervous on staging before? I was like, no, I've put in the work. I mean, I wanted to kill myself for 10 years. And so nobody in the audience can heckle me worse than I've heckled myself. So I've definitely run out of F's to give in that scenario. But like, no, because like also I've done so many shows now that like, I'm not going to die. No one spontaneously combusted. We're not the drummers from Spinal Tap. So the idea that decon, what I love about the decon and position play and Miles' teachings is that it makes improv success replicable, and it takes the mystery and the magic out of it so that regular people can go, oh, this is something that is attainable for me, versus watching someone like Karen Grachi or Amber Ruffin or Stack or Kevin Dorff and going like, I don't know how
That'll
to
never be
do it.
me. I can
Oh, they'll never
positively
be me.
never.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. These are the this is how you use the house. Here's a hammer, here's a screwdriver, here's a level, here's a wrench. Just use them correctly and then build the house however you want to build it. But stop
So,
trying to hammer in a nail with a wrench.
so would you say that maybe a way to kind of summarize way to
Yeah,
summarize
because I talk long.
well, I'm just like, there's, it's you, so there's a lot. But
Yeah.
like if I had to come up with like a slug, like a promotional slug, or just like a little headline for this, it's almost like, um, you know, it sounds like you're saying find something that excites and inspires you, and then dissect that.
Yeah.
Like
Do the
some
research,
part of
do the work.
improv that really gets you going, and there is going to be a structure under it. There is going to be a technique. That technique is teachable, it is learnable, it is honable.
Mm-hmm.
And don't kind of fall prey to the idea that this is voodoo. It winds up looking like voodoo, and that's the magic. But that magic is an emergent property of it. The magic is not built into it. The process is what's built into it, and what comes out is the magic. I mean, that's not really a great summary, but is
No,
that
it
in line?
is. I think it's perfectly in line. I think a great summary for it is to remind ourselves that improv is an art form like any other that requires one works on their craft. The way that a musician runs scales, the way that a dancer will work on the same technique moves to make sure that their toe is on point. The way that a painter goes through dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of drafts of canvases and working over like uh improvisers have somehow like sort of convinced ourselves that we're not allowed to do any of that stuff because then it won't be like truly improv. I think that's a great way of putting it. You're saying like, fine, it's called movie magic, but it's the film industry. There are a lot of people who are just doing jobs, and if they do their job well, it ends up looking like a dream, and that's kind of what we're doing as well. I mean, yeah, I found the deconstruction. Some people are JTS Brown types. Some people really get into genre. Some people really love narrative storytelling. Some people love, the sort of like the short form, right? They love having that structure of short form. Um, I think for me, it all comes down to like, so we call it the quality triangle. I think something for the business world, but my buddy Brian Mandel gave it to me, He's the one that first told me about it, and I'm like, oh, this is totally applicable to improv. Lots of things are applicable to improv, but definitely is. Fast, cheap, and good. Pick two,
Yeah.
because that's all you're getting. I wanted to be good, fast, so it wasn't cheap. I sacrificed a lot. I sacrificed money and time, but also birthday parties. And like, I make the joke sometimes, but I'm not really joking. Is that like I'm a psychopath for this art form? So when people are like, "Well, like, what does that mean?" I'm like, "Well, for about 2 months, every night that I was at IO West, I waited until all the shows were over and most of the people were out of the bar, and then I went in to the theater, and then for 2 hours I would do chair sets, picking up chairs from the back line, putting them on the front line as if I was starting a scene with both hands. From the side, what if the scene started downstage left? What if the scene started downstage right? What if I wanted to sit back on that chair? Was I able to do it
So you're
without
saying
making a?
you would practice physically placing the chairs on the stage, even though there wasn't going to be a scene that would follow after you place the chairs.
100%. And while everybody had left and Crowley was going into the liquor closet and restocking the cooler, you're like, no, it's O'Connell on stage, whatever. Yeah, I'm literally practicing so that in any moment on stage, I'm practicing, how to get to Carnegie Hall, practice, practice, practice. I am practicing, same thing with a basketball player, jump shots by themselves in a gym. I am practicing chair sets so that when I'm in a show, there is not a single muscle memory of any potential initiation, physical initiation with the only tangible objects on stage that we do not have to scene paint or to create through object work, what we call object work, that I will not be prepared for. 2 months, 4 to 5 nights a week, every week, until I felt I was satisfied and I could do it. That is what I mean when I say like I'm a psychopath for this work. So you don't have to do that, but if you can't afford the time or the money to take more than like a class here and there, or to maybe go to one, like save up and go to one camp of Camp Improv Utopia instead of all four, like that's okay. Cut yourself some slack. You're still going to get good. It's just not going to be fast because you have to do it cheaply because of the way that your life works. So you have all these people I see, sort of beating themselves up that they're not better for whatever reasons. But honestly, like, yeah, you have to put in work. It's a You have to find whatever that form or that approach to the structure is, do your history of it, like a guitar player does. If it's Eddie Van Halen, listen to Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, who listened to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and Buddy Guy because they listened to Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
It's a straight line through. It's the same thing with us, And for me, it sounds pompous for me to say this, but like, yeah, it went Dell to Miles to me on the specific area of improv, and probably me to someone else. I don't know who I'm wearing right now. I'm sure they'll tell me.
Well, you are the decon guy. Like you've always
I am the decon guy.
you are the decon guy, like that's
Yeah.
if there is such a thing as branding in this work, like that is a portion of your brand, a big part of the BOC brand, if you will.
I will say this. I have been fortunate enough to not only learn at the foot of the person that helped create it and who is of the members of the family who created it with Dell, probably thought, because no one thinks about the art form more than the old man. I am lucky that I was able to learn at the feet of one of the people that created the deconstruction, and I feel like it is fair to say that I have put in the time and the effort that I could be considered an authority on the subject. I If that makes me the decon guy, that's fine, but I feel confident in being able to say simultaneously, yes, what you're doing is great. Congratulations. Excuse me. Can you hand me the phone, please? What you're describing is not the deconstruction. I mean, like, either way, I feel comfortable. And then if anyone were to challenge me on either of those, I'd be like, no, I'm fairly confident
I think
that what you're doing,
I think it's fair.
what you're doing right now is a very competent version of the run, and you should feel good about it. Right? How dare you disagree with me?
No, I think that's eminently reasonable. There's so many forms, and there's so many aspects to this work that they're real. I mean, there's room for everybody, you know, like you're a big decon guy, but you know, if you look at someone like Nick Armstrong, when I think of Nick Armstrong, I mean, the first thing I think of is King 10 and Improv Utopia, but I also think of JTS Brown, right?
Yeah,
Like
Night Terrors. Night Terrors was the JTS Brown team, and the Happy Time Rainbow Bunny Squad was the deconstruction team, and we shared the bill on shows, sharing the hour
mhm.
dozens and dozens and dozens of times because we came out sort of like the same time as each other. But like Nick and I have said that straight out. I am Miles Jr. and he is Khaki Jr. I'm the decon guy and he's the JTS Brown guy, and that is just fact. Do you know that we did that show once?
I
We
don't
did
think
a
I
show
did.
called Miles. We did me and Nick Armstrong did a show called Miles and Khaki, where I dressed up like Miles, he
No.
dressed up like Khaki, and we improvised a two-man show as them, as if they would improvise to each other. And to both of their credits, they both came to see that show, which was in the Del Close Theater, aka the Andy Dick Theater, and they watched it. And afterwards, both of them were very kind, and they said, "Those were very good impressions, and we have taught you well because that is exactly how we would have played."
How many years ago was that?
Oh man, that was
Because you
at
said
least a
Andy Dick
decade.
Theater, and then you said Del Close Theater.
It had to be over a decade. I know for a fact at the time that the back flats, those red back flats with the center
Uh-huh.
door, had
The
not been
arches.
built yet.
Oh, so it was
Pre
just curtain?
just black black wall, black curtain, and the two black
Right, the
side
wings. Yeah.
side wings. That's how long
Okay.
ago that show was. I think it was a Friday night. It might have been part of the Friday Night Frankenstein, uh, or the Sunday Social. Might not have been the Sunday Social. It might have been the Friday Night Frankenstein or one of those Friday night shows. Because I can't imagine. It might have been a Saturday night because Armando was on Saturday and they came
I
and
would
watched it.
I would pay folding money to see that show.
It was good, dude. It was good.
That was
I'm not
very
gonna lie.
good.
Our me and Nick have a great chemistry, but our impressions were spot on. And he and I are both such dorks that like because Miles's big thing was like, if you want to be as good as someone, you have to watch every single show they're in, only watch them during that show, and then learn their go-tos and their habits until you can replicate what they do,
Uh-huh.
and then move on to the next person. And I did that for so many. That's why I can do impressions of so many people at iOS. That's why my Karen Grachi is great. That's where my
Yep.
Dave Hill is great. As a Josh DeBose, Stacy. Right? But I got it diversify my portfolio. Right? Like I could do them all because
Yep.
I just watched them over and over and over again.
You have a when was the last time you did Bob Dassey? I've seen your Dassey.
Dassey is lives a lot of in here. Doesn't, I don't know. Maybe I do. It's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
That's
I
right.
was because I mean that was I mean I always give a lot of love to Miles, but like I didn't have a very good level 3 experience. So I was like, oh no, maybe this isn't for me after all. And I was like, I'll give this level 4 because at that point I was interning, so I wasn't paying money.
Right.
I was working for it, so I was like, I'll give level 1 this level 4 class week 1. This new teacher, I'll give him a chance, and then we'll see where we go from there. And it was great. Dassey just sat down. He's like, all right, I think the most important thing is truth. Without truth, the work doesn't work, for lack of a better term. I'll find something better later. Anyhow, I probably, oh, right. Sorry. 1 second. Roll. Brian, are you here? Like that's Dassey. And he had me right from Jump Street as well. He was like, truth. Without truth, nothing's real. I was like, yes. You know who else said that? Merlin in one of my favorite films, Excalibur. I was like, yeah, I'm back in.
They're
So,
they're remaking Green Knight, aren't they?
Green Knight? I did maybe.
Is that what
I don't
did
know.
I read that? Green Knight?
Green Knight, it sounds right. I just hope no one ever remakes Excalibur. And I don't think anyone has the idea of doing that because you know, one of the few things you probably isn't going to work too well updating is the old incest storyline, you know, that whole part.
It's edgy. It's a, you know,
Edgy.
it's
They've done it.
you know, people will tweet it.
For sure. And I think you can get away with it in like a longer storytelling, like Game of Thrones, like a TV series, but a straight up 2 hour movie. I'm like, yeah. And then the kid grows up and wants to kill his dad. Still might be doing it with his mom. We don't know. It's kind of there. Yeah, I could talk about Excalibur twice as long as I could talk
Right.
about
That's
Improv.
a totally
That's how much
different
I love that
podcast. Yeah.
movie. Oh, so good. So good, man. It's my boy, John Boorman.
Um,
Percival. I did not know how empty was my soul until it was filled. Knights, squires, to your horses.
I'm trying to wrap up here. I'm trying to be classy. Let me be classy.
I can't. You are already classy. Only a ding dong like me could prevent you from doing it. Class it up.
Oh, you're very kind. This has been super fun. It's been great to just visit with you and hang out with you and see you. And just this is the first time we've really talked about improv in probably a year. At least a year, because this has been going on for most of 2020. And and I'm not sure the last time I saw you before we all kind of went into hiding. So so it's been a long time. So this has been really terrific to see you, to get some of your history that I didn't even know about. So that's fun.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's,
and you're still making stuff. You've got Held In on Sci-Fi. What else is coming up next? What's up next for you and Dr. God?
For Dr. God, we are hoping and knocking on wood that Sci-Fi Channel likes it enough that they want us to give us another season. That's
cool.
Always
cool.
That's always that's always the thing you love in television. You just be like, I just need the ratings to be good enough, and I just need the executives to keep their job long enough to get another season.
To give me a job.
Yes, to get them pregnant, so to speak, with the money. We've got a couple of different irons in the fire around that. Obviously, Dr. God is very, very good about sort of dividing and conquering when it comes to, because our idea has always been, if you send the 5 of us off into the world and find projects and bring them back to the mothership, it will only make the brand stronger. The band, I should say, stronger. Neil just won an Emmy. You know what I mean? Like,
what?
Neil won a daytime Emmy for Comedy Central or Funny or Die's Tuned Out. He took a lot of the public access cartoons that we could not use on Held In because racism.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of stuff you have to cut around 1910s, 1920s, 1930s cartoons. And he took that and turned it into a limited series, one about racism, the old cartoons of how it shows Black people, one about anti-Semitism, and one about sexism. And he had Wayne, they wrote songs and lyrics. Our boy Greg is the best husband, and Dwayne Colbert and Huey Stonefish all worked together that. And so the anti-Semitism episode was sung by Jason Alexander. Leah Thompson did the singing for feminists, and Wayne Brady did the one on racism. Really? And that song is so good. Those guys knocked it out of the park so well.
Wow.
that they were submitted and won an Emmy. So Neil is not only the showrunner of Sci-Fi, Held In on Sci-Fi, he is the Emmy award-winning
showrunner. Wow. Wow, that's tremendous.
Just
I had no idea.
Yeah, so just like an improv, a high tide raises all ships, brother.
Yeah.
So me and Neil are working on 2 separate projects. One animated feature film that I cannot say anything about other than that.
Hopefully we'll find out soon.
Hopefully, knock on wood. And then like a shorter animated series for another established sports-based media company. Sean obviously has his The Way High. Sean Calvin has his The Way Highway, his podcast that he started on IW Radio with Justin Ware, and then Kristen Sanchez, part of the Dr. God family, took over for Justin when he had his baby. Justin I think is working on a book on the down low. So author Justin Ware, but Justin's a studio approved screenwriter. Like he doesn't need any more help. He doesn't need more legacy titles. So we're all and Dave Park is Yeah, Dave Park's on walkabout right now, so he's enjoying his time back. But he's being safe. I don't want to like. He's like
Sure, sure.
but he's
He's
like
not psychotic.
no, but he's taking he's probably smarter than all of us combined. We went, I'm gonna explore nature now that nobody can do
Now that no
anything.
one is standing in it.
Yeah, now that production is it. I mean, he still lives in Los Angeles, but like, he's taking advantage of the idea of like, hey, there's not work. So why do I have to like sit at my house waiting for work to come when work doesn't exist?
Mhm.
Like smarter than all of us, which probably means too, he's just going to come back with some crazy ass good idea. And that's the rest of us have been our little hamster wheels. And Dave's just like, oh no, maybe this happened or this happened. I'm going to put this put it there. And then now we're all millionaires because
Well, I'm
it's something Dave did.
I'm looking forward to the day.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too much.
I'm just me personally, I am pitching something right now. It's not been helpful to have during a pandemic and during the rise of fascism in this country. I've been working on a project that I cannot talk about at all, but let's just say it's definitely an IP that you would have heard of before, and
Okay.
it has caused me for the last 2 years to do a lot of research into a lot of dark, awful things
Okay.
like white nationalism, Proud Boys, the Three Percenters, uh, you know, all those kind of stuff, string theory, all kinds of random things, and then try and make it funny. That's been my
That
job, and so we're
that sounds like a tall order.
it
Um,
is, but we my producers and the owners of the IP are very, very happy, and we brought on a showrunner who's fantastic, and we're starting to pitch it around now to places where I have absolutely, if it wasn't for the strength of the IP and the strength of the material that I somehow fell ass backwards into pulling out of my ass, I would have no right to be in that room. Even the Zoom room version, I'd be like, oh man, I you could take my resume and triple it, and would not be as long as anyone that I am looking at right now digitally.
well,
Uh,
I'm
do
hoping
not mess this up.
I'm hoping before too much longer, we can see each other at a show.
Oh, please.
Maybe a Dr. God show somewhere live in person with an actual house and
Yeah.
actual audience. Like that's the future that I'm trying to live into. I miss improv. I miss doing it live. I miss seeing it live. I miss seeing my friends. Doing this is a way that I can just continue to hang out with improv people who I miss and who I enjoy and who I love. So thank you very much for talking to me about all this. This has been super duper fun.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's I miss it too. And much like the old man, I sit and think about improv daily, constantly. So it's nice to have a scene partner instead of just doing the one man show by myself in the kitchen. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
this has been Jason Frankovitz, and my guest today has been the incomparable Brian O'Connell. Thanks for joining us today, Brian.
Thank you
And
for having me, Jay.
absolutely. And this has been Improv Noob. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. And we're out.